Lingo, President Rockwell Custom Homes. Welcome to Brokers and Bars, getting beers.
It's a good time here.
Hey, anytime at 10 a.m. with a Guinness is a good time,
Not
right,
bad.
on Saturday.
Yeah.
So we're here in Upper Darby at Callahan's. You're an Upper Darby native.
That's
So
right. Yeah, we're here on
convenient for
Westchester
you.
Pike.
And I live right down the road in Havertown, so that I appreciate the convenience.
Perfect.
So we're in Callahan's Bar, run by John Callahan and his son Jack.
Yep.
John grew up 2 blocks away in a home that was built back in 1911, and he opened this bar back in '76. And the funny thing, Teresa, and I got to get the other name, John and Teresa O'Callahan, is who we bought the bar from. So you just had to whitewash the O and the G
That's
off the front. We were ready to rock.
Made it easy.
No doubt, no doubt. And this place is very special though for another reason, and I wanted to start with that if I could.
Sure.
And you would think I'm sitting down with a professional in real estate. We would talk about your 20-year history in fine estate and residential community building, but we're going to start about your passion project, which was a movie.
That's right. Yeah, I had the last probably 10 years, me and a buddy of mine were messing around with a movie script.
Mhm.
And it was really based upon the neighborhood we grew up in. It was based upon the people that we interacted with. And it was, it's kind of this neighborhood, I would say, of low expectation,
Mhm.
where having a job was much more important than education. It was important to many of us, the bonds that we created.
Sure.
But when you combine, you combine this low expectation with sometimes poor judgment, a lot of decisions are made, a lot of times around alcohol that actually end up being pretty funny. So we took this pathetically funny cast, and it's not any one person that we grew up with, but it was combinations of different events, and kind of strung that together in a script to, in a lot of ways, celebrate the bonds, but also show how funny it can be.
Sure. When I was talking to John about he said, you know the importance of the neighborhood tavern. I said, no, not, well, I guess personally I do, but
Yeah,
what's your perspective? So he said, that beer and hole in the wall shot bar where you can come home from a long day at work and you can hate your job. You can go home and maybe have a misunderstanding with the spouse. Maybe the kids are driving you crazy, but you always have that neighborhood tavern you can, go back to or retreat to,
That's
have
right.
that community feel in that environment where you're always welcome and you can sort of decompress.
Exactly, and it's important. The bonding of the neighborhood, the fabric of the neighborhood, is surrounded by a lot of these bars and those networks of friendships that you create.
Sure.
So what we thought was clever with the movie was to take that concept of, if you threw a bunch of crabs in a bucket, just when one of them.
And that's the name of the film.
Correct. Yeah. So Crabs in a Bucket is the film name. The idea behind it being, if you threw a bunch of crabs in a bucket, once one of them almost climbs out of the bucket, its buddies inside the bucket keep pulling at its legs to keep it in their bucket. And we translated that bucket to society and this neighborhood specifically, but I think it's translatable to many neighborhoods, that people do not want their buddy, they're not going to admit it, but they don't want their buddy to be more successful than them. They want to all kind of stay on par with one another.
Yep.
And they will do funny things to kind of circumvent that upward mobility of their buddies. And we looked at just, I've seen it a lot of times that there would be conflict between the aspiring kids we were growing up with and the kids that wanted to just kind of stay and keep the status quo.
Got it.
And it's funny. It's funny. It's pathetic, but it's funny.
So what I want to hear from your perspective is, a lot of people that watch this are entrepreneurs, right? They're professionals, but they're going at it for themselves and their family, etc. How did you take advantage of this opportunity? And forget the financial backing maybe you could have. I'd like to hear about the controllables, maybe time management, the relationships you leverage, your creativity. How does a guy managing a business have this opportunity to have the chance to pursue it?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think that one of the things was just focus, that there was always a goal to make this, and it really had to do with when it's the right time. But I think what you find out in any business is that the most important thing that you can do is let everyone know what you are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And as I started telling people, hey, this is what I'm up to, it was amazing the people that were coming out of the woodwork that I didn't know the contacts that I had. So the director, turns out he lived just on the other side of Cobbs Creek Golf Course from us, in a very similar neighborhood, but Italian Catholic rather than Irish Catholic. So in many ways the same, in many ways different. And then as we started leveraging the relationships we had, quickly we pieced together that there were a couple producers in New York, Rob Simmons and Ante Novacek, that were really could help us kind of bring this to fruition. They had connections with some of the actors and the talent, and turns out I have friends at the Shore that I've met that are in the business, and just kind of, it's interesting because I look at it as a real estate development project that I'm building a house and I figure out how to put a foundation and I get the foundation in. Then I realize, oh no, I need to get lumber and I need to order windows.
Right.
So I'm just learning that next stage with what I'm going now. So right now the movie's in editing. We have a fantastic editor that came in from California, and we're doing all of our post-production here in Philadelphia, which is exciting. It's the whole thing has been a little bit overwhelming, but at the same time exciting to see kind of as you network out the branches of people that can help support you on a project.
I mean, the demands of the real estate profession are crazy to begin with, between networking, relationships, and time. Then to manage a household and 3 daughters and a wife and a passion project, I'm sure you had your hands full.
Yeah, and obviously you got to do that with a lot of support. So
without a doubt,
it starts with a wonderful wife, wonderful family, and they know that I need to do these kinds of things.
Got it.
It was exciting to just kind of use the other side of your brain a little bit here and try to create something artistic in a way. At the same time, it's been a script that they've seen me working on for the last 10 years. Anytime we're on vacation, on a plane, sitting on the beach, always working on the script. And it was a little bit of a family joke until finally I said, hey, I think we're making it this year.
That's great. And you did not know this director, or that he was a director in close proximity at the time you're writing with the family, right?
Correct. Yeah. He ended up helping co-write it with me after he took a couple stabs after the first few drafts, and it became very collaborative with me. It's Paolo Pilati, a great guy and really focused, and he's put innumerable hours into this project. It's been exciting.
And you pulled some pretty good talent.
We did.
For this film.
Yeah, for us to be able to get, as I mentioned before, Taryn Manning, but also Bruce Dern, 2-time Oscar nominee. Jeremy Piven is amazingly talented. Jamie Kennedy and I grew up together, so I was always kind of hoping through him and my cousin John Donahue that those guys would be involved.
Yep.
So I was able to get a couple of other local neighborhood guys. We were able to get Josh McGowan, who's just fell right into the role really well.
Yep.
Been really, really amazing.
I think I could work a role in a pub.
Yeah.
And fall into it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny. A couple of years ago, my company was asked to renovate the bar for the guy that I grew up went to high school with. And I said, if it's okay with you, before we renovated, I'd love an opportunity to film me and about 50 or 60 of our buddies tearing it apart, because I think eventually when I make this movie, and whenever that's going to be, that would be a pretty cool scene to put in there.
Yeah.
So I just can't imagine what the cost would have been if we had went into a bar and destroyed it. So the fact that we were able to do that on film, and we ended up doing that right in Drexel Hill, and it was a great time. We took a bar which was called The Wave and turned it into the Station Tap.
Oh, wow.
But
I love that place.
But before we
That's
did
your work, huh?
Exactly.
Okay.
Before we did that, we toured a bar.
Not that we want to publicize that place. This is all about calories.
No, that place is great too. But yeah, the good example though of having a resource that we would have never in our budget for the movie been able to completely destroy a bar.
Yep.
It makes only about 1 minute of the movie, but it adds just another component to it, which is pretty cool.
So was it you or Jamie Kennedy that took Tina Fey to the prom?
Neither.
Because you were a sophomore when she graduated.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. That's right. And we didn't know each other in high school, and have both been very supportive of Upper Darby High School in many ways. She's been very generous to the Arts and Education Foundation.
Yep.
I focused a lot on tutoring and mentoring, creating an SAT prep program for the school. The school is an amazing place that continues to produce amazing kids.
Sure.
And I owe a lot of who I am to my buddies that I grew up with, and the neighborhood and the school.